Hola, ¿cómo está Las Vegas? And welcome to Chris Garcia, the Conservative American. And once again, we are live streaming on radiotribune.com, Monday through Friday, 1 to 1:30, following Face the Tribune with the legendary Rolando LaRosse. It's another beautiful day in America today, and once again, we have a special guest back, my friend Chris, and he's going to talk to you today about his story about the county coming on his property and legally seizing some of his property. So with that, Chris, go ahead.
Well, thank you so very much, everyone. If you don't remember, this was November the 10th, about 8 o'clock in the morning, whenever I was surprised by a military contingent of Metropolitan Police and two zoning officials, Jason Al Schwang and Barry Hodges, allegedly. I don't know if it's their true names, but that's the ones they pose to have, except that Jason Al Schwang would not, in fact, speak his name. I asked him if that was who he was. I'd seen him on TV once before in his SWAT team outfit. And so it was a very, very stressful, tyrannical, senior abusive. I am an 88 senior. There are many different reasons that one can have the American Disability Act protections provided to them, and I have several, not the least of which is hearing. Apparently anymore, if you're an American that loves America, that's a disability too, according to people like Harry Reid.
That's right, that's a whole other show.
Well, it's just a fact.
Right.
I didn't say it.
That's right, Chris.
Domestic terrorists, we all are, according to him. Of course, if one looks at that slanderous claim that is infuriating, incendiary, and tends to ignite the fires of fear against the Blue Lives Matter group, that they think that we're all out here to want to kill cops or do them harm, which is a preposterous proposition, especially for someone like myself that spent a large amount of his lifetime working in law enforcement as a professional in several different jurisdictions, passing through several different post-certification programs to test to my abilities to do what I claim I've done. And I can certainly provide support and documents and certifications that authenticate my credentials and what I claim. In fact, I was here with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department for a short time, completed their post-certification academy, and then also to the Nevada State Unity Pro Board as an enforcement agent for over a year.
Wonderful.
And so it's a very traumatic thing when somebody who's been an enforcer of the law sees people who are actually breaking the law under the guise of enforcing the law. That's the true maxim of law, is you can't break the law to enforce the law.
Yes.
And for an armed gang of police to come out with the zoning officials who are on the same administrative leg with the county commission, this is part of the problem. The county commission has set up this matrix of power underneath one leg where the administrative agency, which is effectively a little tyrocracy, a bureaucracy, a terrocracy, who has autonomous all powers of government assimilated in one agency.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I don't want to distract you. But whenever you put all those powers of executive, legislative, and judicial under one guise and allow people to make up their own version of law to suit their own self-serving agendas, we look at Frederick Bastier's Treatise of Law, and we understand the depraved nature of man is to be self-serving and to live off his fellow man until it becomes too abusive and unsustainable for the rest of people, and they rise up against that bureaucracy of the tyrant that's trying to rule over them and prey upon their livelihoods and eke out their wealth.
Yes.
Well, whenever you're a zoning official, you're supposed to travel out and around and you're supposed to respond to violations, complaints by a private individual who feels that his property is harm, danger, or there's something going on that needs to have their attention.
Yes.
And absent an invited, let's say it, a suggestion or a complaint from someone, and in order to be a lawful complaint, it must have a complaint written out by the party that's complaining, who thinks they've been aggrieved, and it should be supported with an affidavit determinant to support the complaint. Otherwise, it's a hearsay complaint.
Exactly. And
hearsay complaints are nothing. It's if you're not willing to take the responsibility for the allegations that you're making, then you have no business making allegations, because you must be subject to being culpable, liable, and suitable for the claims that you make when you accuse someone, so that if you falsely accuse them or you don't have facts to back up your preposterous allegations, then there is some redress of grievance by the person you made the false allegation against, as there should be.
Yes.
And this is probably the nature of law that we operate here in America. Now, some would ask, what would cause people to act so criminally, to commit armed robbery, grand theft auto, oppressions under color of law, RICO tort fraud, racketeering influence corporations. In Nevada, RICO is 2 or more persons involved in a common scheme designed to obtain money, goods, or other values, or perhaps advantage over someone else under artificial schemes or devices of fraud, or theft by deception. It can be converting private property to their own interest.
Yes.
And that becomes a powerful motivating force. When you've got people that are driving around the county all day long, it creates a perfect pretext for them. In fact, I saw 2 yesterday, not that they were county officials, they may have been, I don't know. They were in a POV in a black, one of those like Kia Souls or one of those square box SUVs, and they had stopped and they were pointing at my 56 Dodge convertible that's on the trailer up by my house, rather interestingly. I stood out there for a minute. I was coming in at the same time they were going by, and I thought maybe they were going to get out and ask me about it. That happens pretty often. But they didn't, but they talked between themselves and took off. And I didn't necessarily detect anything nefarious at that moment, but we don't know what they might do later, much like the zoning officials.
Yes.
However, when the zoning official comes on your private property without an invitation, consent, or some actual exigent circumstance, emergency that threatens the actual public safety, then they are doing a warrantless trespass. And this is one of the things that refutes the whole preposterosity, or the absurdity, if one likes better, of this false claim by the zoning officials of being a public danger that required them to come and seize my private property.
Chris, did they present any paperwork to you at the time, or
they had
legal?
They had some. I demanded to see a proof of the claim, of the warrant. I wanted to see the warrant.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me some fictitious paperwork. In order for a lawful service of process to be effectuated, it must be appended or have written on it with wet ink on white paper a signature, not a copy of the signature. A copy of the signature is not a signature. It's not compliant with Rule 4M of Federal Rules of Service. To be a complaint lawfully, that has to be signed by an actual judge, not an administrator. An administrator is nothing but an attorney with a black robe on. An actual justice who has the power of the pen should put their wet ink signature on there. These were photocopied documents. They were supposedly signed by Judge Diana Sullivan, who I have sent a letter, I haven't received a response to it, noticing her to the fact that the affidavit that supposedly supported the issuance of the search warrant was in fact fatally defective for an incompetent witness. Under Nevada rules of criminal procedure, Nevada revised statutes, the federal rules, the agent himself cannot make up his own affidavit. He becomes a robo-test liar. He becomes perjurous. He has a vested financial and fiduciary self-interest in the outcome of the event. And whenever he testifies to something as an incompetent witness, it makes that affidavit no value whatsoever. It should not have been. And a competent judge would know or should know that an employee agent of the person that's running the operation, that's taking the vehicle, is not a neutral, independent third party that could be suffered any injury to property or person to be able to make out the affidavit to support the supposed pretextual seizure. And so, and I looked at this. I had the presence of mind, even under the amount of terror and stress that I was under, which was extreme. I was pumping full of adrenaline my day, and of course I was speaking fairly loudly to several police officers. I had guns pointed at me in a dramatic, threatening to my life way, and I very seriously considered that my life was going to be taken from me. And I was actually surprised that it wasn't. I thought they were there to murder me. I had that vision, and if they were going to, they were going to have to make a spectacle out of it. Well, they did not do so, and I'm kind of glad they didn't. I wasn't wanting to die that day.
Yes.
I wasn't wanting to do suicide by cop, and that's why I laid very cautiously my pistol down and on top of my automobile, and I stepped away as I was asked, and and I was really surprised they didn't do that.
Did they handcuff you?
No. This is what's very, very odd. I'm supposedly a domestic terrorist, so bad that they dispatched 13 to 18, maybe 20 police officers, at least 13 to 15 automobiles were circled around in front of the house like it was Osama bin Laden in there. And although they did unload my defensive implement and taking the bullets out of the clips and storing them separately, I had a roommate that was there that had some knowledge of law also, and one of the officers was up there talking with him. There were also two behind me, so I was surrounded by armed police officers who were covering me at all times. And I was aware of that. I'm a trained observer, so
yes,
by my tactical nature of law enforcement, military, and other aspects, I've learned to have my head on a swivel and be accounting what's going on, look behind myself. I didn't want somebody going in my house without a warrant, based on probable cause, with specifying what they were going to search for, and doing just a random search to see what else they could develop. I mean, it's my private space. It's the castle doctrine. A man's home is his castle. It's inviolate land and buildings as far as the history of the world goes. So these were very, very troublesome things. And when they left, they didn't take my pistol. They didn't take the ammo. They had it stored separately. They gave the ammo to my roommate when they were through. And as they left, then they gave me the pistol. Well, I think they saw the tactical nature of my pistol because it is a professional law enforcement type defensive implement, and very, very compact, but very, very potentially strongly defensive and could be lethal if it was used properly. This is very, very. The other thing that was very curious, when I went down to the records section, you'll like this one. I went down to the records section about 8 to 10 days afterwards. This happened on the 10th. I think it was around the 17th or 18th of the following week on a Thursday or Friday. I went down there to get the event number so I would know what happened. And I had a new records clerk that was doing it, and she had an overseer, a gatekeeper, a watchman behind her the whole time. They were rotating them, and mostly females of the records section. Occasionally it was a uniformed officer. I didn't take any particular account. I didn't see any particular note that the uniformed officer was taking of me. But I had been very cautious about going down there because these are the same people who basically attacked me and armed robbed me and terrorized me. So I'm going into the belly of the beast of the same victimizers that had actually committed this horrific abusive act against me. So I had a bit of trepidation, so that I called two other individuals before I went, so I let them know where I was going in case I didn't go out.
Exactly.
I thought it was prudent and under the circumstances well advised. Well, while I was there talking to this young lady, and I was making a little small talk, and I have a generally jestful nature about myself, nothing inappropriate, just, little word plays and commentaries, and, let her know that no matter what come up in my file, I was not a terrorist threat or a mass murderer or a jihadi beheading terrorist or anything of that nature, and that I was concerned that there might be something dangerous in my criminal record that should not be there because, I'm 65 years old, multiple law enforcement associations, never any. In fact, while I was there, I got a scope report that was printed out of their special computerized system in-house. And it showed that I'd never been convicted of any serious crimes, no felonies, no warrants. That was $10. They wanted to charge me for, I want to say $43 or something like that, some odd, very extortionate amount to get a copy of the event report. And she said that even if I paid for it, there may not be anything in there, or may be redacted or spoilated. They might black it out, and I wouldn't be able to know what was in it anyway. She said it was rather curious. I said, well, she said the event number was in there, dispatch login of the event, but there was no list of the responding units. It was just a blank entry, which whenever you got 15 to 20 units that show up and probably 15 to 20 men that show up, it's very unusual that there wouldn't be an entry into the dispatch record on the call sheet. Well, that wasn't the only thing that was curious. She was going through there and she was looking, and I saw her, a lot of times the overwatchers behind her would make sure she was doing her job right. She was up there, I think she'd probably been doing it for 6 months or a year. She was pretty good at what she was doing. Very nice young lady, very pleasant, and being very professional. But I saw her at one time look up more than a glance, but it was trying to catch the eye contact. I watch people, and I'm trained in observing people very critically, and it was very obvious she was trying to get the eye attention to draw her overlooker's attention to something. Well, she didn't, and the overlooker stepped over a little closer, and she actually touched her on the leg, directed her extended index finger out, very pointed to the lower left-hand corner of the computer screen as she was facing me, and moved it very slowly across to show her what she had observed. Now, I couldn't see the screen, but I had suspected for quite a long time that someone had put very threatening, dangerous, intentionally slanderous, and untrue information into my, what you might call a criminal file, because I don't have a criminal file. But if somebody put something in there, seemed very, very dangerous and incendiary and endangering to my life, and I detected this for quite a while. Well, that was the first visual cue that I had that something was in there. Well, then I had, out of desperation, I think it was on Monday following that event, I had called the U.S. Attorney's Office and spoke to Brad, I don't recall his last name right now, and he had suggested, why did I go to the FBI? I told him why, frankly, because of what had happened with the FBI and the Hillary Clinton emails and the failure to prosecute, and the James Comey's conflicted testimony where he actually was part of the HSBC money laundering scheme of drug cartel money and so on and so forth, along with Loretta Lynch. The whole thing that they were able to make those decisions in a very important case like that was preposterous because they were abjectly conflicted and incapable of being independent, not having an interest parties, because if they uncovered something, then it might relate back to things that they had done with and so on and so forth. So it was really very troublesome. Yeah. And because of that, and other things that we've seen the FBI involved with, like the Times Square bomber and the Boston Marathon, the Sandy Hook, other things that the FBI has bought, back to Waco and Ruby Ridge and just Oklahoma City. These questions about the FBI's reliability, the damage done by their improprieties in processing evidence, and the testimony they provided, which was conflicted and fabricated, they've been exposed repetitively and doing a pattern, practice, and custom of being untrue, actually fabricating evidence, setting up compromised, least sophisticated, or maybe mentally weak individuals, and providing the enabling for them to carry out atrocities, providing the equipment, the materials, the monies and stuff, and this completely undermines any trust that the people have in that agency to be able to operate as an independent. In fact, I've even had the occasion of speaking to someone from Utah about a child protective services case that I was involved in that involves child sex trafficking from a Christian, so-called Christian day school there in the American Fork and West Jordan areas in particular, and potentially 2 murders of 2 children under this same group of people, apparently a cell. And I tried to contact the FBI up there, and I was accused of being a sovereign citizen and wanting to know about this and that, and they always want to give you the pretext they're going to investigate something, but then they gaslight you. They turn the circumstance around and turn it into an inquisition and an adversarial, accusatorial, avaricious circumstance where they're really trying to claim blame on the person trying to report the crime to keep them from reporting the crime, because they obviously don't want to investigate those crimes because there appears to be some culpability, liability, or perhaps aiding and abetting, if not in fact involved in these atrocious acts, like the Pizzagate things that we see also.
You know what scares me, Chris, is that you're a student of the law and you know your rights. How many more unlawful searches and seizures do you think is going on? Just not in Clark County, but around our country, and people just don't know their rights. They don't know,
Well, in New York City, for instance, in the project housing there, they were very well exposed for carrying out pretextual, what they wanted to call searches on just, basically it was a stop and search, or stop and frisk as they called it. Well, that's not any pretext of having some specific crime in mind, particularly a felony crime, to violate somebody's rights. And they were, of course, chastised back then. There was a big thing. Also in Los Angeles, the district attorneys there were completely restricted from being able to give testimony in courts because they got caught putting plants inside the jailhouses to extort information to embellish their cases that were weak in the get-go to get other evidence from getting the jailhouse stitches to get confessions from them and elicit testimony to build up weak cases that they didn't have to make in the first place. And so they were chastised and exonerated from being able to give evidence. This culture of corruption that's permeating the law enforcement society around America is a very dangerous threat to the very fabric of America. We don't have trust in our judicial systems because of the corruption like it is here in Las Vegas and the federal courts as well as the other courts. If we don't have law enforcers who actually enforce law as opposed to carry out criminality in the law, like we saw in my case when they came out and robbed me and stole a very expensive collector investor car on the pretext of being a danger when it wasn't, we've involved in an area of what's called a kleptocracy, a government by criminals, an oligarchy, if you will, a corporatocracy, a narcocracy, as Michael Rivero calls it, government by narco-terrorists that are infiltrated in the government, permeated. And it makes it very dangerous. You got people like Harry Reid declaring Americans to be, and veterans and everybody else to be domestic terrorists. Well, when you've got criminals claiming that the normal people who are generally upright and mostly moral and conscientious people, and we all go through spurts in our youthful exuberance and delusions of hormone-induced psychosis that we have when we're young. And when we grow up, we generally turn into pretty good human beings and generally try to be good parents. We love our children. We love our grandchildren. We want to take care of. We want to have safe schools, safe places for them to go have fun, not have to be worried about being sex trafficked or having their heads cut off.
That's right.
Well, it's pretty intriguing.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is when I went to the FBI's office on the guidance and the suggestion of the U.S. Attorney, they did the same thing. You got a former policeman now as an FBI agent, and I made up. I told him exactly what happened, and when I mentioned LaVoy Finicum, that obviously struck a chord with him because he became angered. He became very accusatory. He wanted to know if I wanted to kill cops. This became an attack. It was a biased, hostile, supposedly an investigation of crime, which turned into an accusatory interview. An inquisition is exactly what it was, and it was very hostile. And I felt the danger while I was there, trying to be a witness to expose the criminality here with the Metropolitan Police and the zoning officials here and the county commission.
Wow, unbelievable.
Well, in fact, when I was in that meeting with FBI agent Matt Schaefer, he told me that one of the officers that were involved in that incident on 10th November at my location, at my home, he said when I first cracked the door, now mind you, I'd been back there just woken up, I was still a little buzzy, I heard the diesel motor run, I thought it was the garbage trucks, that's what I was going out there for, and I still had on my pajamas and stuff, luckily, and I went out there to put the trash cans out. Well, I just cracked the door. I saw my car being towed out of the driveway. I was shocked, stunned, terrorized, and fearful. I went back to get my defensive
I went up too.
And when I came out,
yeah.
Well, what I found after that, in that interview with the FBI agent, he claimed, now I don't know if this has actually occurred or not, but he said one of the Metro officers made the statement that when I opened the door, I said I wanted to kill cops.
Oh, my goodness.
That is abject lie. That's falsity. Wow. That's false testifying. That's perjurous. That's manufacturing, incriminating, incendiary, inflammatory testimony falsely to create an air of criminality against someone, to put them in harm's way, exactly, and to liken the chance of me being actually murdered under the pretext.
Listen, your law enforcement training probably saved your life that day because you knew exactly what they wanted to do. I think they wanted to make a scene out of it, and I think they wanted you to maybe point your weapon at them, and I think they could have very easily tried to take your life that day.
Chris, when I walked out of that FBI interview that day, after being accused and insinuated and made up false lies about me, I walked out and they had summoned, I think it's the CERT team, the Crisis Intervention Response Team that Metro has. Yeah. And before I even started my car, I just got in my car, I was still traumatized from being in there. I was not comfortable. I was going hopefully that they were actually going to do some investigation, but I went in there with eyes wide open, and the understanding that it could turn the way it turned, and I wasn't surprised that it did. Unfortunately, I was somewhat on my feet and aware of that and able to avoid implicating myself, I think. And when I did that, they turned on the red lights and stuff. As soon as I sat down, a whole group of them swarmed on me of Metro. They ripped the plates off my car, claiming, now I had driver's license information, I had registration, I had insurance. Because my insurance had lapsed without my knowledge, mind you, my bride of 16 years had taken care of that while I was out earning a living, while I was fighting against the criminal gangsters trying to steal our house who don't have an interest in it, JP Morgan Chase Bank. They chase people from their homes when they don't have an actual investment in it. 2 law firms and other aspects. And so that was not something I took place of. I had carried what was called a operator's policy. Basically covered anything that I traveled in, motorcycles, cars, trucks, as long as I was, doing it myself. It would cover me rather than all those different cars. It was a lot more affordable situation when you had multiple different classic cars, you had motorcycles, you have a pickup truck, you have 1 or 2 different traveling units. And so it made sense that I'd had it for a number of years. Well, whenever she moved out on the 17th, that apparently, retrospectively, I discovered that was about the day it was due. But I didn't know that, and because she had been taking care of it, I couldn't know what I didn't know, and that's how it lapsed. Those are what are termed mitigating, extenuating circumstances of the most egregious nature. Whenever your life is completely changed, you've got a 3,000 square foot house, you've got a house full of children, dogs, and birds and stuff that you love dearly, and you wake up that morning and they're all gone. That's a bit of a traumatizing situation and damaging to the psyche of a normal human being, and cope with that, with heating that up with all the other things going on. I had been down that morning. I was trying to file a case with the State Attorney General's Mortgage Fraud Division. I had notarial fraud in factum from WAMU's sales broker dealer agent who posed as a WAMU employee, who was really a private contractor. The woman who made the contract, wrote the documents, negotiated it with us, notarized her own signature.
Oh, wow.
That's notarial fraud and factum, brother, and that's what I was trying to file with the state that morning. I also had gone to the state court and put in a state case, and of course, and I had put in the same claims I'd had before, FDCPA, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, Fair Credit Reporting Act, Telephone Call Protection Act violations by JP Morgan Chase Bank, or more likely their debt collecting law firm that they assigned the debts to, the Tiffany Bosco firm and National Default Service Corporation here in Las Vegas, who coincidentally, Matthew Dayton was in the courtroom I was in yesterday morning. I happened to see him in action. And so when I had gone down there to do that stuff and came home and found that apparently a military contingent, or at least a well-trained, well-oiled machine like a military contingent, had spirited my wife, the kids, the dogs, the pets, 2 safes with a considerable amount of gold and silver, some other private items that were in there, private identification, private collections, and things that I had long before I was married, abusing the community property aspects here in Nevada. My bride really abused another senior citizen and traumatized me further, along with the other things, and now she had also disabled my video surveillance system, taking out the high-density data device that was supposed to record, and because of that, I don't have a video recording myself, and I have to rely on the integrity of the Metropolitan Police not to redact, spoliate, alter, or erase, or have an accident with their videos that all their officers now wear on a daily basis.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Unbelievable. Just
unbelievable. I mean, when you're a targeted individual, as I am,
yes.
And I was just listening to some other people doing the same thing, being stalked, being victimized, being targeted to shut down First Amendment protected freedom of speech because you're a strong voice and you actually speak with knowledge and competency that invites people to be confident in what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Being a whistleblower is a dangerous thing to be in a society full of terrorists.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I want to thank you so much today for listening. To Chris Garcia, the Conservative American. We are streaming live on radiotribune.com. Our show will be streaming live later on, radiotribune.com. And later on, you can also Google us and watch our show on YouTube. Chris Garcia, the Conservative American. I thank you so much, Chris, for being my
Thank you.
special
God
guest
bless
today.
America. Make America great again.
Absolutely. This is a man who is a patriot. This is a man who knows his rights, his constitutional rights, and his civil rights. Learn yours. Learn your constitutional and civil rights, because things that are happening to him are happening all over America today.
If you don't know your rights, you don't have any rights.
Absolutely. God bless America, and God bless our troops. See you
Hear, hear.
Monday.